Welcome back to the Get Validated podcast. You get validated, really anything that I would be super excited and grateful that you're doing for yourself. So, anything where you're prioritizing yourself, opening yourself up to expansion, opening yourself up to new experiences, and just staying curious. And I'm just super excited for my guest, Shannon Brown. Thank you so much for being here, Shannon.
Thanks so much, Fallon. It's great to be here with you.
Yes, I'm so excited. We're going to have such a fun conversations, guys. Shannon is a spiritual coach. She's a visionary artist and healer. Her work supports clients reigniting their inner fire, which, is super close to my heart. And she's just very into creativity and soul purpose through art, sound, and plant medicine. And she's sharing that she actually has some art here in Atlanta, which is super cool. So I'm going to look for some more stuff so I can give you guys some links. She has over 25 years of designing and facilitating arts and healing experiences, including retreats, programs, and ceremonies, combining multiple creative modalities, and her trauma-informed, which is an important piece, which we're going to talk about, healing arts practice. Because we're talking about these beautiful things like sound therapy, expressive arts therapy, plant medicine, shamanic healing ritual, and dream work. It's important that you are meeting with somebody who is trauma informed and actually gets that piece. And I'm sure we'll get into my little story, but I mean, the only time I did plant medicine was not in the setting that you would have thought. And I'm grateful that it was a positive experience. But at that point in my life, I was just trying to stay alive. I was not trying to have a deeply transformative experience where I was meeting my higher self. So thank you so much for really doing this from the angle that I'm sure a lot of people have their various opinions about. But when you bring up the trauma informed and you bring in all of these certifications and trainings that Shannon has had, this is why people are talking about plant medicine with shamanism. So thank you so much for following your path and just like following that integrity too.
Thank you so much, Fallon. Yeah, you're right. It's really, really important that we think about the set and setting that we're going to, welcome these incredible medicines into our lives. But yeah, the trauma-informed piece is really, really important. And yeah, I have so much knowledge to share with you. So yeah, let me know how to begin. What would you like to know? Or how
I
can
mean,
we
we want to
chat
know
about
everything.
this?
So I'll just say, as someone who I want to do a journey of some sort with an intention, it's just going to be an added piece to my toolbox versus, I have people asking me all the time that have never been in therapy. They haven't done a coaching program. They know nothing about wealth consciousness and like all of those things. And they're like, oh, I'm just going to like do a journey and like see what happens. So those people are probably listening and are like really wanting to know what makes it different to be trauma informed and what does that mean?
Yeah, that's a really good point. Well, here's an example. I spend a part of my year in Mexico and part of my year in Canada, and I work with a lot of plant medicines where I am in Mexico. But one of the things I notice is that we put a lot of effort into really honoring our shamans or the people who are facilitating the journeys, and that's really important. But
Mm-hmm.
I think because we come from a culture, and I'm talking about the Western culture, where we have people in charge, let's say teachers and doctors, we always assume that they have our best interest in mind. When we go to other cultures that maybe have different processes and different ways of doing things, we may still arrive thinking that this person is going to be, there for me. And shamans are trained, most shamans that have an indigenous lineage, there's a different background, there's a different way of approaching things. And so there's a lot of assumptions that go into what is going to happen. I mean, I did it myself when I first sat with a shaman in Peru to sit with ayahuasca. I was surprised because the shaman, I came from my privileged white background. I assumed they would speak English, or at least there would be a translator. I assumed that there would be, some interest in what I was looking for or what I wanted to get out of it. But it was basically, here's your diet, here's where you're staying. At this time, you show up here, and maybe the shaman will show up or not until, whenever. And then you just receive, and then you leave. And then the next day you just sort of sit there and go, what the hell just happened to me? You know, so luckily, number one, I was with a really good friend who had been in Peru before. We talked a lot about psychedelics together. So, and he had a lot of experience. So, you know, we could support each other's integration, but there was a lot of that assumption, as I'm saying. So, number one, when you are choosing to do a plant medicine experience, do your research. Think about who is going to be there for you, who is going to be holding space for you, who is going to be holding your hand, and find out, you know, has this person done this work before, and what is their lineage, and what is their training, and think about what is your support system before and after as well. So I am 100% supportive of people taking psychedelics in this safe context, and making sure that that person is, you know, not on any contraindicated medications that could cause problems. Like, you don't want to take psychedelics when you are on an SSRI.
Oh, goodness
that is one of the main things, you know, really. Do the research. What should I know? But we don't know what we don't know, right? We just hear, ooh, psychedelics are healing and they're helping people, and it's 10 years of therapy in one night. Wow, I want to try that. You know, so that's what I'm finding in Mexico when I'm there. It's like these people are just getting off the airplane, going down, and then being left wandering at night after a ceremony where the shamans packed up and left, and they're wandering and they're totally gone. Yeah, I know, right? They're totally off into another world. This doesn't happen all the time, but I have seen this happen.
Yeah.
So think about the context. Think about your support system. Think about the preparation and the integration. In psychedelics, there's the whole breadth of this. It's not just the journey. It's how prepared are you? How's your diet? What are your intentions? Have you done your research? Then there's this magical journey, but the journey is just the beginning. Then it's the integration. How are you going to bring this into your life? How are you going to show up in your community with all this new information? How are you going to step forward into your new path in a way that is sustainable? So it's not just the little medicine here. It's not just the drop of medicine. It's the whole package. So I'm really excited to share this information with you and your listeners. And the trauma-informed piece is so important. So I didn't actually address the trauma-informed piece as well as I'd like to, but let me know if you want me to dig in a little more into that.
I would love to go as deep as you want, because it's so important.
Okay, fantastic. Well, as I'm sure many of your listeners know, and you've heard, and we all have experienced this, everyone has trauma. We all have come from a place of trauma. And I'm talking big T trauma and little t trauma. So little t trauma is like, you know, being a kid and you're playing in the sandbox and one of the kids takes your toy and you start to cry because you want your toy. Like it's not really trauma. That's developmental kind of learning. But anytime that we are overwhelmed with our emotions, it's more about, did our parents hold us when we were crying? Did our teachers take us and hold our hands? So that's kind of the little t trauma, how we were supported in our experiences as children moving through. Big T trauma, we know, can be anything from abuse, accidents, operations. There's all sorts of things that can happen in our life. And sometimes something which might seem inconsequential to you might have actually impacted you in a traumatic way. So the foundation of trauma-informed work is that we all have had trauma in our lives. So trauma is too much. Yeah, it's true. And it's just about us being supportive and loving of each other. Just always knowing that everybody has their stuff. Nobody is better than anyone else. Everyone has their stuff they've dealt with in their life, and just coming at it with compassion for others, compassion with self, right? And so for me, as a trauma-informed guide, I'm always at that point of never feeling like I know more than somebody else about them, because I don't. I only know that we all come to each other with all of our stuff. all of our emotional ways of being, our physical ways of being in the world, and knowing that I have a certain level of privilege in my life and being humbled by that. I'm really humbled with the amount of knowledge that I've received in my life and the path that I'm on and the family my soul chose. So I just come with humility, but also confidence and knowledge that I have done my work to be in service to others. So when I speak to somebody in a way that's trauma informed, it's as simple as things like, being gentle, never telling somebody that they don't know something, or being available in a way that is listening. We have two ears, we have one mouth. So we want to be able to listen to people, to really receive that person, and being very, very focused and supportive of them, but never imposing. Like, it's about consent. It's about speaking before the ceremony and saying, we should talk about touch. How do you feel about consensual touch? Can I touch you in your hands? Yes. Can I hold your hand? Yes. Can I touch you in your feet? Maybe. Possibly yes. Possibly yes, or yes. Yes, you can touch my feet. Can I touch your knees? No, knees are off. So this is being trauma informed. I know what I can and can't do. The person knows what the ceremony is going to be like, what they can expect, so that they're not surprised. I mean, we can share as much as we can. Being trauma informed is the language that we use. May I ask you about this, rather than saying, tell me about this. It's invitational language, right?
Yeah.
You laugh because it's very
well,
common.
because I'm thinking
people.
of these people that have like trauma from talk therapy. That's what just popped in. Tell me about this horrible thing that happened to you. All the details. It's like
all of it
no.
right now.
Not a good idea, for the record.
Yeah, exactly. I've seen there's an Instagram called healing from therapy or something like that. Yeah.
Oh my God, I'm gonna have to start following that.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and just remembering that we come from a culture that is power driven, and capitalism doesn't have our best interests at heart. It's really about the machine and the best for the machine, not the best for the people. So
oh my goodness.
Yeah. So we're yeah.
So when you first started talking, pedestal's been coming up a lot for me, because I'm, I didn't even hear that until I was on a journey like a few years ago. And it was when I literally had a person that I was dating on a pedestal. And then even yesterday, I'm rereading a book for the second time in the past month, and it's like pedestal keeps coming up. So just wanted to like totally lining up with what you were saying. And then I've also had War Machine by Bush like stuck in my head for a week. And that all just came like full circle. And then I also just wanted to like just honoring you, because the trauma informed examples of like, where can I touch here? How can I ask these questions is so important. But, I never have conversations or people on my podcast or anything like that unless I immediately feel safe with somebody anyway. But even just the second we got on, like, it was like another level of like safety and nurturing. And it's like, yes, can I just like be a tiny little baby and you just hold me? Like, I just get that from you. And I just wanted to thank you for having that as a gift and using it. And I'm curious, like, how far back do you remember or became conscious of, I'm Shannon Brown and I'm a healer and I have these gifts?
Well, first of all, thank you for acknowledging that. That just makes my heart swell. And I do hear that from my clients, that they feel very safe around me. So, and I often get a lot of young women coming to me and feeling safe and wanting to take part in the work that I do. So just honoring what you've just shared, because it feels really nice to be acknowledged in that way. But I also just want to acknowledge you for knowing what you need as well,
I
and
need
that's
mommy
part of
help.
it. Yeah.
I
Yeah,
need someone to
exactly.
hold me and tell me everything is going to be okay.
Yeah. Well, and part of that is reparenting ourselves too. And that's some of the work that I do, is helping people to go back in time through what's
Yes.
called a soul retrieval. And a soul retrieval is a beautiful experience where it holds space for you to go back to those times when you may have experienced this challenge, or where you may have not experienced what you wanted, which was to be loved and to be held by your mom. So you become the mom and you go back and hold yourself in a way that is nurturing and loving.
I love that. That's
Isn't it?
amazing.
Yeah, it's so beautiful. So you were asking, when did I know? I've always been someone who drew people to me. And part of my trauma story is that my mom was a single mother, and I was kind of shipped out to a lot of different people. So I spent a lot of time with relatives, with babysitters, with friends of the family, with school friends' parents and their families. And my mom was a driven businesswoman who, she was my best friend. She was an amazing woman, and I honor her so deeply. And she just did what she had to do in life,
Yeah.
which was her business and her, you know, her success. So I owe so much of my life to her. But some of those places that she sent me to were not always healthy, and were very, frankly, very traumatic. One family in particular was very, and this is a trigger warning, was very abusive to their children. So I spent a lot of time, almost a couple of years, hidden in the corner, observing. I was never hit or touched, but I witnessed a lot of pain. So fast forward many, many years, I was in training with my teacher, Liddy Flewelling, who's a shamanic healer, and I've done years of training with her. And we were in a sweat lodge. And in that sweat lodge, she asked us to connect in with a time in our lives that was scary for us, and see see what came out of it, see the almost harvest the seeds and the blossoms of that scary time. And so I saw myself as a child observing my friends having all this pain inflicted on them. And it made me someone who was very attuned to people's challenges, to people's sorrows, to people's pain. And somehow my presence with those friends and at those moments was comfort for them, because I carried the knowledge that they had this experience. And so for years, I was able to be a reflection for them. So when they were wondering, did this actually happen? Because in a lot of these families, it's suppressed, and it's
Right.
it's a secret, right? When people have had trauma in their families, it's a secret. Nobody knows. We're not allowed to talk about it, you know. And this is really what happens to a lot of people. There's just, unfortunately, too much of this that happens in our world. So I became very sensitive to feeling this in others. And what it did was it put me on a path of wanting to work with children. So I spent many years teaching children art, because I'm also an artist. Yeah. And I felt like like the good fairy when I came into people's classes, because kids are actually traumatized by school, because they're told to sit in their chair, be quiet, listen up, right?
It's crazy.
It's crazy, and it's awful and horrible for kids to have that. And we've all gone through it. So I would come in with my big bag of paints and my open, you know, smile, and I would say, you know what, kids, we're going to have fun today, and we're going to play, and you can talk, and you can move, and you can jump around, and I'm going to play music, and it's going to be a contained explosion of fun. So yes. I saw myself, right, as this person who could hold, I always see it as like, you know, when you're a kid and you're playing with those little dolls, and you've got a farm, let's say, and there's a fence that you put around.
Yeah.
So there's like a little plastic fence, you know, and then you put the farm animals on the inside. I always felt like I was the one holding that fence. So I'm holding this container. And inside it, these are the things you can do. You can make marks, you can play, you can paint, you can jump, you can scream, you can laugh. But just inside of this container, nowhere else, because the teachers don't want you to make a mess in the classroom, but you can do it in here. So I became really good at holding space and helping people to understand what they can do inside the space that was safe and fun.
Mhm.
And so I allowed people to feel the parameters of this safe container that I created for them. And some of it was informed by the compassion that I learned as a child for others. So that was kind of like the trauma story. But on the more interesting kind of witchy story, when I was a kid, any book about witches, I wanted to read it. Any like stories, I dressed up as a witch for Halloween, like I was obsessed, right? And you're saying yes, so you must know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is our like birthright as women and as healers, because our ancestors and all those women, those thousands of women throughout history who were the healers, who were the midwives, who were the, the herbalists, the deep, loving, nurturing feminine that was healing. These are our ancestors, and some called them witches, and some knew them just as the deep, nurturing, loving, healing feminine. So that was also always in my purview. So much so that I remember I had babysitters who would, this one in particular, she would lay out cards, and then she would look at one of the cards and pick it and then put it down and move it around. And then she would have me like run my hand over it, and I would always pick the card.
Oh
Like
my God.
yeah. So as a kid, I had this psychic ability, which was kind of like magical, and I
Yeah.
didn't really nurture it that much. Like didn't really know what that was, but got really into telekinesis and moving things with your mind, and like levitating and all these things. When you're a kid, you're like, ooh, let's do that. Let's bend a spoon. Ooh, that's cool.
Yeah.
So that was like, that's where it all started. That's where it began.
That is amazing. Like, I love everything about what you shared.
Thank you. Well, and as an adult who's doing this work, it really happened for a couple of reasons. One was I had some health issues as a young teenager that were never really resolved. And finally, as I hit like my early 20s, I found a naturopathic doctor who put me straight. And that opened up my interest in spirituality, because I had to change my diet. So I started going to health food stores. And in the health food stores, there were these cool books and magazines about yoga, about spirituality, about indigenous knowledge, about healing modalities. So that was, again, it's like taking the struggle you've had. So it was my issues, and I'll be honest with what the issue was, because it's a very feminine issue. I used to get really bad yeast infections, and it was awful, and my doctors could never fix it. Like it was just bad. So finally, I realized it was my diet. I had an overgrowth of candida. It was all these things that Western doctors didn't deal with. Right. So it was the naturopathic doctor that helped me with that and put me on this path. So I started opening to the spiritual. And then at age 30, my mom got very sick with cancer, and I sat with her when she was passing away. And I brought in all of my early kind of spiritual knowledge, and I brought a spiritual healer in to help her. And so that was a very pivotal time in my life where I realized I'm a healer. I need to do this work. So that's when it all kind of started moving, that I wasn't just healing and helping others. It wasn't just me healing. It was me understanding myself as a healer. And so then that was a whole other journey. And here I am, like 20 years later. I'm 53 now. And so that's where a lot of that passion and that desire to serve originally came from.
That is incredible. And just, thank you so much for having that path. And, I still kind of just see you there with that family and witnessing that. And I feel like if you hadn't have been there, those children's futures would have been totally different, because you were exuding love and protection. I mean, even though you probably physically couldn't do anything at that time, like you were still sending them so much love. I don't know if they're, still around, or if you talk to them, but I'm sure at some point they're gonna, if they haven't already, be like, wow, like, thank goodness we had an angel there with us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, I would love to say that they've done well in life, but I think that type of complex, consistent, traumatic brain injury
Uh,
doesn't
I'm
always bode super well. But there's still people that I know, and anytime I see them, I do feel like a lot of love and a lot of compassion. And I still feel like I hold a bit of that knowledge and memory that I saw this and it's true that this happened. But I also, part of healing is our ability to shift and transform the experience through some of these shamanic things that I do. So what I talked to you earlier about is, going back into that time and doing a soul
yeah,
retrieval. So really going back and supporting that energetic shift, and reparenting ourselves and reintegrating those parts that were lost in those traumatic experiences, reintegrating the parts back into our system, into our body, and then freeing up the energy. Because if we are always thinking about this is what happens with PTSD and trauma, is like our brains haven't been able to defragment it, put the pieces together, and then put them into long-term memory, and then back into something we don't think about anymore. When it's still always up in our system and we're always thinking about it, it's hard to move forward. So sometimes, when people are able to do this work and go through it and then see it for what it is, and then just put it away, put it back, and forgive as well. I mean, that's a big part of this work, is seeing our past, understanding it, allowing it to be, knowing that it is part of us and this is how we got to where we are today, acknowledging it, forgiving it, and then letting it go. Because if we keep holding on to it, it's hard to get through. The universe will just keep bringing stuff to us that reminds us of that experience. It's challenging stuff for sure, but there's definitely ways to deal with it and ways to help people. And some of it is plant medicine. Plant medicine really allows us to get some distance and see these experiences and feel the compassion, the deep love and compassion for ourselves. Implant that compassion and love and see it in a new way, and then let go of it, and not to let it define us anymore.
absolutely. And whoever it is, I mean, I started getting a very localized headache like right before we got on, and it slowly built. And then when you told that story, like since then, like I literally feel like someone's hitting me like right here.
Okay.
And
So you're feeling it.
yeah, so if someone's just listening, it's my front right head. And so, I immediately go to like definitely guided journeys. Tyrosine can be really helpful for repairing that area, and then hyperbaric oxygen. And one of the things, especially for women who are injured in their right frontal part of their brain, and they have it's from some type of emotional trauma, a lot of those women get labeled as borderline, because there's this one little slice of our brain that if I think of Plinko. I don't know if anyone knows what that is from Wheel of Fortune, but like it's like there's this one little area, and if you get that injured, it's like you can instantly almost become someone who looks like they check off all of the boxes for borderline, which I have that story. That was one of the areas that got injured for me. And so it's just really interesting when you bring in, like, again, like the brain piece is obviously very important, but that trauma spirituality piece, you can't just do one and not the other. Like you have to do all of it. And I wanted to go back to something you've mentioned a couple times, which is the nutrition and the diet. So that definitely being the key to healing whatever physiological thing is going on with you, but then pertaining to getting ready for a journey, I'm really curious, like what, obviously no one should be eating McDonald's or anything like that ever. But as far as like, if I was going into a journey this weekend, like what would I have changed maybe about my diet this week?
Yeah. Thanks for bringing that up. And thanks for acknowledging the feeling in your body. That's really interesting. I actually was hit as a child, right here on the front
Oh,
top.
Maybe that's what it is.
It's very possible, but not by a person or anything. I was 2 years old and I was at a playground and a metal swing came and hit me in the head. So sometimes I feel that my capacities are informed by that experience.
Yeah.
Some of my abilities with, the psychic abilities and my ability to tune in really well to things and to people. I'm wondering.
Like a portal.
Yeah. Wow, that's so interesting that we're bringing this up together. Wow, very cool.
It's like getting more intense now.
Okay. Do you want to do some like releasing of that? Do you feel like you need to?
Let's do it.
Yeah. So let's just ground, feet on the ground, and take a deep breath. I'm on my
grounding mat, and I got my grounding stone. I'm ready.
Okay, perfect. She's ready. So let's take a deep breath in through your nose. And out through the mouth. In through the nose. Out through the mouth. Just imagining that you're surrounded by some golden light, green light, green energy, bringing that in from the earth. Bringing that energy in and just letting go of any tension. Drawing that green energy up from the earth, up through your feet. Feeling it mixing in with the golden light that's surrounding you. In and out with your breath. And let's start focusing the energy around your head. Just feeling that green and gold merging and feeling almost like a mist around your head, surrounding your body, bringing your heart online, the beautiful green emerald of your heart, breathing into your heart. And just feeling that light energy, almost like a mist, like a cool rain, cooling off your head as you breathe in and release. A little bit of rain starting to patter on the top of your head. And I'm just taking some of that energy that's feeling pinpointed, and I'm just bringing in my hands to release. And just know that the story that I have is one that I've healed. It's one that I've released. Anything heavy from that story, may it support our transformation. And I honor that feeling that we both have in our heads right now, for reminding us that we are healers and that we are supporting all those who are looking for change, who are looking for transformation, who are on the path, surrounding our heads with love, compassion, and support. And just releasing any tension that doesn't belong to us. Just releasing. Just releasing and allowing it to just dissipate. And thanking it for its wisdom, thanking it for its clarity. Thanking it for helping us and for being in here. May this healing go where it needs to go. Coming back to placing a hand on her heart and sending ourselves some love. I definitely have felt some pulling and tugging on my heart. So I just want to acknowledge the heart connection that we have here. And sending ourselves some compassion for any of that, any of those stories that we carry from our younger years. Just sending ourselves love and compassion, and knowing that we're doing the work. We are whole. And we are perfect as we are. And slowly coming back, and when you open your eyes slowly, just connecting into 3 colors that you see around you. Without judging or naming the color, just letting that color wash over you. And coming back to this present moment.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I needed to
Very
hear
warm.
that you were okay. That was
Yeah.
like that's when everything shifted.
Yeah. Thank you. Yes, I felt your compassion for me.
I was like, oh
felt
my
that.
God, little Shannon.
Oh, thank you. That's so sweet and very sensitive of you, and I appreciate it. Yeah, I'm very warm now. This is what happens when I do the healing work.
I love
I'm
it.
sure you all know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I just feel so loved. And like, it's so funny that you called in green and gold, because Tinkerbell's one of my little babies.
Oh,
She came in nice and quick, like she usually does.
Yeah, you can trust that they'll be there.
Yeah.
It's so amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's just, yeah, there's so much magic in the world. We're just so loved and so supported, and all of us, just the infinite guidance that's available. It's really beautiful.
It really is. So I have to tell a really cute like story that happened today.
Yeah.
So my friend is very gifted healer, and she's in that transition time where she's like just about to jump off the thing there, and just assuming the parachute will be there. And so she's doing meditation this morning, and she's like, I just really need you guys to like send me a very clear signal that I'm on the right path. Just send me an image. It's so funny. So I sent her an image of someone's thumb. Just like, she's like, is this like a thumbs up? Which of course, like, we'll take it. But she's like, it was just, no, it's just like a thumb. Like, we're going to send you a message about a thumb. She, had all of her notifications off. So she goes back to her phone after she comes out of the meditation. And in her family group text, her mom had just sent her a message about how I guess iPhone's considering changing where their home button is. And it was a picture of someone's thumb.
Oh my God, I love it.
And I was like, I told you you're supported.
Absolutely. And it's so cool because this is the language of the soul. This is the language of metaphor. This is the language of the symbolism in our universe. And I work a lot with dreams, and I think people get confused because a dream comes to you and it just isn't clear always. Usually dreams come in this very metaphorical language, kind of like what you were saying with the thumb. And it's not really a language that is spoken in general to most people in kind of the Western context. It's like, oh, it's symbolic, it's magical. Oh, let's take it away. We don't want people going down that rabbit hole.
Right.
And yet that is the language of our deepest parts of ourselves. And when we open to it, and it's everywhere, we can learn about it everywhere. We can learn about it by looking at art. We can learn about it through reading tarot. We can learn about it by just anything you look at. Like, I have this egg here. It's a rattle, but it's an egg. And this is one of the things that I love sharing with people is when I show you an egg, what do you think of? What is the message that comes with an egg? And Fallon, what would you say if I showed you an egg? Like, what is it trying to tell you?
Okay, so like 1 second. This is just amazing. I love getting the giggles. Like, so the meditation I was just sharing, my friend did and got the message, was something I sent her that was really profound for me. And it's about being in a golden egg. Like, that's the whole meditation.
Amazing.
So in a normal day, I would say an egg is all about like, power and creativity and new life. But in this context, it's just like keeping the synchronicities going.
Amazing. Amazing. I love it. So
Yeah.
everything has multiple metaphorical language, multiple meanings, right? And you're right, power, new beginnings. That's why the Easter egg brings the Easter bunny brings the Easter egg, because at that time of the year, it's when spring is coming. It's like everything is coming out of the egg. Hello.
Yeah.
So the egg can
Yay.
be like new life, right? And then also it's this very powerful and strong shape that I can't remember how this works, but if you like push on both ends of an egg, it won't crack or something like that. It's a very stable, even though it's very fragile, it's also very stable. So to put an egg,
I never knew
right?
that.
To put this egg shape around us in meditation, it's a very, very stable and strong shape, but it's also, it also has this fragility that we can move within and out of it. Right. So it's almost like a vehicle in a way, if you're putting yourself inside of it. And then, right. And so, yeah. And then it's also synchronicity, like, wow, here it is again, the thumb showing up, the egg showing up, the message. So out there, guys, think about the thumb, think about the egg, and make a piece of art about it.
100%. And the vehicle thing rings true too, because I still have a recurring dream about it. It'll dissipate at some point, I'm sure. But so, I'm 37. I'm probably on my like 9th or 10th car. My first car was a 95 Ford Escort, and I beat the shit out of this thing, but she made it a pretty long time. But nice. I keep having recurring dreams that I'm like stuck in a town in Maine where I'm from, and like where a lot of my family originated. And I keep forgetting that I have it there and that I need to sell it. And then I'm getting very frustrated because I'm like, I have 2 hours to get to my appointment in Atlanta. Like, we're running late. Let me see if I can get a few $100s for selling this car. And the last 2 times that I had the dream, which is actually this week, both times something new devil came in, which to me is like new level, new devil. So of course I'm like, yay, something's happening. But like the vehicle egg thing is very interesting. And I'm going to definitely dive into that a little bit more.
Yeah. Well, and what I would recommend when working with dreams, we can do what's called a waking dream, and we can go back into the dream. So meditation is number one for anyone on the spiritual path. Start your meditation practice and practice being in a relaxed state, and then you can learn how to journey in your mind with your eyes closed.
Okay.
So imagine, sit in your meditation place, give yourself half an hour or whatever, and then imagine yourself as you're getting more and more relaxed, you can go back into your dream. You can actually find yourself back in the dream. So a good way to get into a journey or a dream like this is to look for a portal. Look for a door, look for a crack, look for, in between the roots of a tree. Imagine that vision coming up, and then go into that space. And then on the other side of it, find yourself in your dream. And so go into the meditation, find yourself in your dream, and then see what unfolds within the dream. Follow the threads in that dream. And you can even bring in your own, it's called active imagination. This is what Carl Jung talked about. So with active imagination, yes, I know. Me too.
I love Carl Jung.
Yeah. He's the shaman guru of the Western world. I truly believe it. Yeah. And he did a lot of this active imagination. So when you're in it, allow the dream to unfold, but also know that you can kind of steer the ship in a way, like, allow it to surprise you and see where it takes you. And also know that if something, like I do this with people who have recurring nightmares, when something comes up in the nightmare, you also have agency. You can choose to stand tall and proud instead of running away in this nightmare, let's say, and say to the scary thing, why are you here and what do you have to tell me? And then often the scary thing in the dream would be like, what? You're talking to me? What? I've was put into this dream to just scare you. It's like, okay, so you're here. Why are you here to scare me? Because somebody told me to. Okay. And, it's like, so follow that conversation and see where it goes. And often you'll discover some amazing piece of information that you've been waiting for years. So that's what I would recommend with
Oh my
your
gosh.
car dream, because it keeps
Thank you
coming up for a
so
reason.
much. Yeah. And like, it's a very specific driveway, and this driveway had so many cracks in it. Like, there's plenty of places for me. There was a big sewer that came through. Like, there's plenty of portals. So that's really, really
Awesome.
amazing. Thank you so much.
Yes. And the other thing I would encourage is bring a guide with you. So it could be an animal guide, it could be a spirit guide, it could be an angel, it could be, but before you go in, like just call in your guide, or you could even meet a guide in the dream. If you don't feel like you have a guide, you can go into the dream and you can, before you get to the place where the action's going to happen, you can say, okay, my intention is to call in a guide. And maybe like your neighborhood cat will pop up and be like, I'll be here for you.
Oh, I would love
So
that.
doesn't that sound great? So then turn to the little guide, say, are you here to help and support me in my journey? Yes. Okay, well, let's go. So, or it could be a tiger, or it could be, you need some power behind you. Like, I got my lion here, or I've got
Yes.
a fish or a bird or whatever comes up. But know that you can always ask. And the other thing I always recommend is bring a pouch which has some gifts or treats. So any guide or any spirit that shows up, and if they give something to you of value, go into your pouch and give them back something like a candy or a jewel or a feather or anything, a thumb, whatever, whatever shows up. And if they've given something to you in the vision, in this journey, then, reciprocity, thank you, and here, and then release. So lots of little things to remember, but there's lots
I got
that
it
you can
locked
do.
in. I am so excited. Thank you so, so much. That's so amazing. And I know everyone listening to me is super grateful too, because there's, we get bits and pieces of different information of like what to do with our dreams, but like, this sounds the most comprehensive and beautiful. So I'm really excited to do it.
Good. And remember, when you come out, have your journal, write it right away, because in dreaming, I'm sure you all know this, if we don't write our dreams down in the morning, they're gone. And there's so much information there. And there's often things, like you said, that keep coming to us. So that's a message. That's a message for us from our unconscious, for our dreams, for our dream being that we are. Mm-hmm. It's there for you. So write it down, honor it with writing it down. Dreams like when you honor them. And when you honor them, they come back again. And they are such a wealth of knowledge. I love this part. I'm so fascinated and obsessed with dreaming. I read somewhere that we're in dreaming 5 years out of our life is spent in dreaming. 5 years.
Wow.
Right? So that's a lot of time
cool.
and knowledge from our unconscious.
I love it.
Yeah.
Oh, so amazing. Thank you so much for being here, all these amazing tips. And I'm just so excited to continue hanging out with you and spending time with you. I definitely want to do some work with you, and I'm sure everybody listening does too. So I'll put some links below of how you can get in Shannon's amazing world. But I'm just so grateful for you. And as always, if you like this, please take a screenshot and share it. If you have a situation where you feel validated and you tag me and use the hashtag #GetValidated podcast, I will Venmo you $5. We are just sending you so much love. Again, this is Shannon Brown, Intuitive and Shamanic Guide, and we are just so, so grateful for everyone being here.
Thank you so much, Fallon. It's been so such a pleasure, and I look forward to chatting with you again. And thank you to all your
Yes.
listeners out there. You're all awesome, and I can't wait to meet you all.
Yay. Love you guys.
Yay!